What is up, guys? We are back for another YouTube Live fantasy football advice. It is now week 8. Um, it's almost halfway through the season, boys and girls. Obviously, a lot of fantasy football still needing to be played. I believe, including this week 8, we have 7 more weeks. So in fantasy football, if you are not making the playoffs, we only have halfway through the season to go for fantasy football. But if you do make the playoffs, obviously, you could very well go all the way and have an additional 3 to 4 weeks, depending on your league. Um, but let's go ahead and see. We have our first comment here. Rave, you are first. Good job, my guy. He says, is Flacco a good stream? Jaden Daniels probably out, and I have Jamar. Yeah, I would do that. Obviously, he's one of the quarterbacks I was going to talk about today, but I'll also talk about a few other guys that should be available in a few leagues. But yes, Joe Flacco, he is only owned in 17% of rosters on Sleeper. So I know that you use Sleeper majority of the time, but these past few weeks, he's been throwing the ball 45 plus times per game. Obviously, we know the Bengals are always going to be fighting for their lives there because the defense is kind of whack. But we know that they're going to give the ball to Jamar Chase, at least trying to get him the ball at least half of those times. So there's probably going to be about 20 attempts towards Jamar Chase. So that can only mean good things, right? Can only mean good things for Joe Flacco. But yeah, this past game, 23 attempts thrown to Jamar Chase, 16 catches, 161 yards. So obviously averaging about 10 yards per catch at this point in time. But he says, I got a rough week, so many buys and injuries on my team. Yeah, I think I might actually show one of my leagues where I have a bunch of bye weeks as well. Let me see if I can get it up here. I believe it's in the Gold League as well. Yeah, it is in the Gold League. So let me see if I can present this real fast for you guys. But I also have a lot of injuries here. So let me make this a little bit bigger. But as you can see here, I am McDonald's World, and obviously Kyrie, who is a fan here as well. I'm playing against him. I have Drake May, Javonte Williams, Breece Hall, Jamar Chase, just like you, Rave. Addison Kincaid, who is currently out, but I feel like he'll play. Michael Pittman Jr., Pinheiro, and the New York Giants defense against Philly. Hopefully they can do well again. I have Nick Chubb on the bench, Odunze on the bench too because he's not playing well. Kittle on the bench as well because he got me 0 points this past week. Trey McBride, Seattle's defense. This might not actually be the team that I might have a bunch of bye weeks. So I'll kind of get that back to you guys. But yeah, that is, I have one league. I know for sure that I have at least like 4 or 5 guys out. So might not be that league. It says having to start Pollard, Golden, and probably a Humanor. Yeah. Week 8 and I believe week 12. I'm not 100% sure if it's week 12 or not. But there is some really rough times there. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, guys, so you guys already know. Go ahead and put your comments down below. Let me see. Something's not working here. Technical difficulties, boys and girls. But we'll get it under control here. I might just have to do it manually. Trying to get it to where I can show you guys Sleeper as well. Because I kind of want you guys to see what I'm kind of searching up here. So that way you guys know exactly what I'm using to kind of tell you guys the facts. And some people are visual learners. Some people are not. So that is what I will be doing. I feel like it would help a lot of people. So I'm going to leave that there. Let me see if I can find a better way to show this. Maybe that one there. Might do this. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So this is obviously where I kind of type names, stuff like that. So your questions I will pull up and we will answer them using Sleeper as our benefit. So it says I posted my team in the Discord. Can you go over it? Let me double check here. So right now you have Jaden Daniels, who might not play, is what Ray has told us. You have Saquon, big if. Chase Brown, another big oof. JSN on bye, Sutton, Kittle, ETN on bye, Eagles and Aubrey. You have Keenan Allen on the bench, which could be good. Yeah, he played well this past week. AJ Brown on the bench, who also played good. Rico, Dowdle, Ertz, Fairbairn, Purdy, and obviously the Bills defense. So I'm trying to figure out what your team, what you're asking here, Brandon. But it looks like you have good guys to kind of help with the bye weeks. Obviously, you have Keenan Allen that you can put at wide receiver 1. You can have AJ Brown at wide receiver 1. I might like that one better against the Giants and their porous defense. There's a possibility I might like Zach Ertz over George Kittle. That's a possibility. And obviously at the flex, whoever you don't put, you could put Keenan Allen, Rico Dowdle. You have enough guys to put there, or even George Kittle or Zach Ertz. So whoever kind of fits in there in your flex. So you have a good team. I think you're do just fine. Rafe says I'm 5-2, tied for second with 2 other people, so I should have a fine to take a loss. So yeah, you should be fine. Yeah. If anything, there's always 1 week that is almost a guaranteed loss for you, and it's usually the week where you have a lot of bye weeks. But I've also seen a lot of people make it out of the bye week with a dub because their opponent also has a lot of byes. So if your opponent doesn't, it's probably going to be a little bit tougher. But yeah. Ray says, I did start 0-2 on the season too. Hey, me too, my guy. The league that I just showed you, that's the gold league there for the NSP's, gold league, basically. I was 0-2 to start off because Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, who I drafted in the first 4 rounds, and then the other 2 guys I drafted there were tight ends, and George Kittle and McBride. It was my 2 tight end strat in the top 4 picks. And it didn't work out for me in the first 2 weeks. But I went on a 5-game winning streak, including this past week. And there's a possibility I could make it 6 if I play well against Kyrie. It says I'm 2-5, sitting at 9th. It's just been bad luck that's been pushing me down. What league is that, my guy? It looks like it's, a league there on Yahoo. So is that your personal league? The one that I played in before? Let me know. It says, bro, fantasy is mostly luck. Obviously, yeah. We don't have control of, the players that we choose, but we do have control over who we want to be on our team and who we believe in for the season at the beginning of the season before it ever starts. Obviously, waiver wire pickups, we kind of follow trends and stuff like that, but you just never really know. So, yeah, it is what it is. But yeah. So let me know, guys, do you have any questions here? If not, I will be going over, my top quarterbacks and everything like that. So let me know down in the comments, and when you do have something, I will pull it up. So for now, we'll go ahead and just go through, my top quarterbacks. Obviously, we already talked about Joe Flacco, so you know that he's one of them. It is what it is. Joe Flacco is not the best guy to be out there. He says, not ESPN. Okay, ESPN. I gotcha. But obviously, Flacco is not, the best quarterback that you want out there, but he is serviceable, and he's on a team where he's passing at 45 times a week. So legitness, pick him up if you really need him, especially if you have a bye week there. There's a plethora of bye weeks. I believe there's 6 teams at this current time. So it's going to be a small week for us with games, but definitely we'll still have some good ones. My next quarterback that I'll talk about here is Jackson Dart. He's owned in 56% of leagues. He might be picked up in one of your leagues already. I just used him this past week, and it was his best week out of his entire career so far with 4 starts. 29 points, 1 rushing touchdown, 3 passing touchdowns. He's looking like a franchise guy for the New York Giants, so it might have just saved Joe, the GM's job, as well as Dabble's job, the head coach. So that's why they love him so much. But Jackson Dart is a guy to pick up if he's available in your league, even if he's just going to be your backup for now. He has a lot of favorable matchups going into this year, and even the non-favorable ones like this past week, he plays really well. Brandon says, and can I send you the rankings if it helps getting an understanding of what I need to win in order to get to the playoff spot? Does that work? Sure, man. I'm assuming that right now for your playoff picture, 4-2 is where you need to be at. That's where a majority of leagues are at. If you're 4-2, you're either right outside, a 6-man playoff team or a league playoff structure, or if it's a top 4 only playoff structure, then you probably need to be 5-2 at this point in time. So that's what I'm assuming for you. But yeah, if you want to send it in the Discord, go ahead. But yeah, Jackson Dart is one of those guys, sneaky, and he might play very well this week. Again, this is going to be Aaron Rodgers, guys. In my opinion, Aaron Rodgers against Cincinnati was, pretty good. 4 touchdowns, 23 completions there, 249 yards. He had 2 picks, so this could have been a better week for him. He could have had 28 points instead of 24. But he's been pretty consistent, at least getting you 12. So on his bye week, if it's a very, very stacked and a league that you really don't have a lot of wiggle room, Aaron Rodgers is a guy to pick up there for the quarterback position. He's going against his old team in Green Bay. Obviously, their defense is pretty good, but Aaron Rodgers playing against one of his older teams usually plays pretty well. He has a chip on his shoulder. He wants to prove something. So this one also is a home game for the Steelers. So the terrible towel will be a factor. And Aaron Rodgers, when he has a factor going in favor with him, he plays well. So I think Aaron Rodgers right now is a good guy to pick up as well. Obviously, guys, if the possibility that you have Mr. Sam Darnold out there, he's probably not available for you guys. But if he is, he's been having a very, very quiet but very, very consistent type of year. I'm just bringing up his stats here. Let me see. For some reason, he's not coming out. There he is. But yeah, obviously, I don't have him on the team, but person who does, obviously, this past week against Houston, he played fairly well. But right now, he's going to be on a bye week this week. Obviously, this is for those of you who don't need a quarterback but are looking for one in the long run. He's averaging about 16 to 20 points weekly, with his highest week being 28 against Tampa Bay, where he had to throw the ball a whole bunch. But he's playing pretty clean football, only 4 interceptions totaling this year. He did have a fumble this past game, but that's a pretty big outlier. He's had 3 on the season, so it only happens every other game or 2 games or 3 games. But after the bye week, he's playing against Washington, where he's going to have to keep passing the ball. He's playing against Arizona, where he's going to keep having to pass the ball. And the same thing with the Rams. Those next 3 weeks are going to be weeks where he's going to need to play well in order for the Seahawks to win. And Sam Darnold right now is sitting at the number 13 quarterback, only rostered in 55% of leagues. I think if he is available for you, you guys should pick him up, because why not? He's a great backup quarterback to have. In fantasy, I have him in my dynasty, and I am loving him at this point in time. Let's see. So Brandon sent it to me in a DM. Yeah, so right now it looks like the top 6 might be your fantasy outlook there. But yeah, so, sorry, my bad. I said 4-2. 4-3 is what you need to be at to make the playoffs in your league, is what it seems like. So you're only 2 games out. So obviously you'll have to win this week and sometime win again in another week, and just wait for people to lose. So, it's top 4? Never mind. Still, I believe the same thing applies there. It seems like the top 4 there is still 4-3. So you need to win and somehow get your points up, or whatever the tiebreaker is for your league, whether it's who you win against or whether it's how many points you scored total. You need to figure that out and see what you can do to get the highest amount of points, as well as win games, because ultimately you need to be a winner to make it to the playoffs. So that's just a little bit there. That's what I can say to you without having to see who you're playing and what their rosters are and stuff like that. But okay, going into running backs here, obviously it's been slim pickings the entire year, guys, with a lot of injuries. but a lot of people are looking at Tyjae Spears and picking him up. He's owned in 40% of rosters. I just dropped him in the Dynasty, I believe, or I'm going to. For some other people, just because my running backs, I have a lot more running backs that might be better, in my opinion. Now, that's not to say that Tyjae Spears won't take over this backfield in the coming time. He's already getting about half the snap share in consideration with Tony Pollard being the starter. But he's not getting used a lot in the run game. It's more of a passing option. So he is averaging 8 points these last 2 weeks when he's played more than 40% of the snaps. So Tyjae Spears is a sneaky guy out there just for this, obviously, impending bye week this week. But guys like Kenneth Gainwell, he gets used about 30 to 40% of the snaps. But I do feel like against Green Bay, he could be used quite a bit in the passing game. So he could get close to about 10 points this week as when they need him in the passing game. He gets about 6 catches, and that's pretty good for a running back. Obviously, not a lot of yards, but all you're looking for is that PPR there, right, guys? So Kenneth Gainwell is out there in a lot of leagues, only owned in 60%, but obviously you can get him for really, really cheap. Or you can, if you're lucky, just pick him up off the waiver wires. But another name that you guys should be looking at, in my opinion, we've been talking about him on and off this year, just hasn't really been getting the usage as much as we'd like to. But Kyle Monange from the Chicago Bears, he looks like a freaking 30-year-old already, but he's only 23. He's pretty quick, a little bit bulky from Rutgers. This past week, he got 17.4 points, guys. 13 rushes for 81 yards, 6 yards per carry. That is really good. Again, he had a touchdown and he had a few catches there in the passing game. So 17 points against New Orleans. He's going against Baltimore, who is just hurting right now. And we don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to come back. I will double check, but I believe Lamar Jackson is still, sidelined. And even on Monday, he has not been practicing with that hamstring. Obviously, Lamar Jackson has a lot of fast-twitch fibers, so the way he moves is going to aggravate that hamstring even more because of his quickness and his power. So if you really, really need somebody on this bye week, I think Kyle Monange could get some good usage against Baltimore, and he could just be a good sneaky guy to have on the roster. Last but not least, we did see Kansas City look a little bit better. I do think there's a possibility that you could get somebody like Kareem Hunt. He is available in about half of the leagues available, so 51% rostered, but he's still going to be a factor. Obviously, this past game, a little bit of dunk down, but playing against Las Vegas, the Chiefs just had an ulterior motive to get the ball to Rashee Rice. But coming into these next few games, they're going to try to be a little bit balanced, especially going against some better matchups coming forward in Washington and Buffalo. So they will have to be spreading the ball around a little bit more, in my opinion. But other than that, guys, it's just going to be a lot of people that are, for lack of a better term, backups or rising backups. There is a guy named Rashard Smith who got a little bit more playing time, and he played well for the Kansas City Chiefs. So if you like him over Kareem Hunt and think he'll continue to get usage, he is also getting involved there with the Kansas City Chiefs. But I mostly think it's because they're winning 31-0. But against Washington and Buffalo, I do think that they will go with old trusty Kareem Hunt over Rashard Smith. But that's just me. I don't know what the plans are for them, so we'll have to keep looking out on the practices as well as the game plans for the Kansas City Chiefs. Brandon says, should I pick up Xavier Legette and put him in the flex over Keenan Allen this week? No, I don't think Xavier Legette is going to continue with what he did this past week. So in my opinion, I would just put Keenan Allen in. Xavier Legette is going against Buffalo. This is the only week besides week 5 against Miami, who is one of the worst defenses in the league, where he actually got some good points. I don't think it's going to last, sadly. Obviously, the Panthers are looking better and better every week. Actually, being pretty close to a winning record, right, guys? So it's pretty cool to see. I'm glad for the Panthers. I'm glad for David Canales, who is their head coach there, Seahawks coach back in the day. But against Buffalo and Green Bay coming up, I don't think Xavier Legette is somebody who could match what he got this week. Keenan Allen, I do believe can. So that's who I would go after. Let me just search up with Keenan Allen. I think it was like 20 points this past week. 28 points. Sorry, my bad. Even better. So 11 receptions, 119 yards, 1 touchdown. Amazing. He's going against Minnesota, who has a pretty fair defense, but Keenan Allen is Keenan Allen, and I think he'll play well against them. Probably getting you somewhere north of 15 points, which is pretty good in my opinion. So that's what I think there for you, Brendan. Let me know what else you got questions on. It says, yo, what up, what up? What's up, Brazil? He says, my waiver claims are Dart, Boutte, Gadsden, Kyle Monange, and Brashard Smith, dropping Mason Taylor, the tight end for the Jets, Luther Burden, and Jalen Coker. Good. I'm dropping some of those guys too. I'm dropping Jalen Coker in the Dynasty if my waiver wire goes through. And same thing for Mason Taylor in another league. So, in my opinion, Gadsden is the tight end for the Chargers. He's playing very, very well, and he's getting usage. Again, this is the second week in a row that he's getting some really good usage. So let me pull up his information here. 11 points last week on 7 receptions. This week, 7 receptions again, but 29 points. Like I said, going against Minnesota this week, a little bit porous here and there, especially in the linebacker crew. I think this could be really good for Keenan Allen to kind of distract them, and Oronde Gadsden, the rookie here at the tight end position, getting again another 7 receptions probably. Hopefully a touchdown. So for sure, Gadsden will be one guy that I think you should get. If you need a quarterback, I would say get Dart, but also Boutte, the receiver from the Patriots, is also playing very good week to week. There are some weeks where he's not, the prime suspect, but when he is, he's out there balling. So past 2 weeks, 26 points and 13 points against pretty bad defenses. They're going against Cleveland and Atlanta next. I do think it'll be a little bit of some tougher matchups for Boutte, so I would say Dart, in my opinion, if you need somebody at the quarterback position. Other than that, it'd probably go in the order of probably Kyle Monange, Boutte, and then Brashard Smith after that. But Dart and Gadsden, I think, are the guys for you to grab. Dowdle or Allen at the flex. Dowdle, I think, earned a little bit more of some snaps. Obviously, he did a lot better, in my opinion, than his counterpart there in Chuba Hubbard. So it's tough. I would say Allen because I think he's going to be more consistent for sure, but Dowdle is right there. He's right there, and I think that he also deserves to start. But if I were to have to flip a coin with the matchup that both of these teams have, I think that I am going to go with Keenan Allen. But yeah, it's pretty tempting, but I think Buffalo will get the best of the Panthers, and I don't think that Rico Dowdle is going to be getting too many points more than what he's usually getting, like 10, stuff like that. Frizzo says, I really want to drop Jameson Williams, holding myself from doing it, but it's so hard. Again, man, it's your team. Drop whoever you want. But Jameson Williams has been, like this, and then he goes down and he stays down here for a while. And he'll go up a little bit and then back down. So obviously, majority of his games, he's either going to get 6 points or less. And then here and there, he's going to have 18. So if you like that from somebody, the floor is like 2 to 3 points, but then the high is like 18, 20 points-ish. Totally fine with me, but I just don't like that. I like consistency, so that's what I look for. But yeah, I wouldn't be mad at you if you drop Jameson Williams. Let somebody else deal with that headache, in my opinion. But yeah, guys, so let me go through some more of my running backs here. Obviously, we said Tyjae Spears, Kenneth Gainwell. Obviously, Monange, Kareem Hunt, I think will be better than Brashard Smith. I think he'll continue to get more work as a more solidified running back. Do I think that Brashard Smith is going to be out entirely? No, I think he'll get some work too. But I do think Kareem Hunt will get the majority of it as one of the senior backs there. So now on to wide receivers, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to try to keep today a little shorter, just because my voice is starting to quiver and go out already from talking a lot. Recorded a video before this, so again, guys, get y'all's questions in. Priscilla says, do I flex Woody or Butte? I'm starting May. I don't mind you going Butte. I think they are going to have to pass this game against Cleveland. It's going to be hard to run the ball. So, in my opinion, I like Butte. But Woody against the 49ers, it's going to be tough, in my opinion. We saw that he didn't really do much except for that one pass catch that he got a touchdown on against the Seahawks. And in my opinion, the San Francisco 49ers defensive front can be just as good, if not a little bit better at sometimes. Probably a little bit sometimes better coached with their philosophy. So, in my opinion, I think I'm going to go with Butte. I think he's more solidified. Alrighty, but wide receivers, boys and girls. Obviously, in my opinion, I think Darnell Mooney could be making a resurgence. We saw them kind of throw his way a little bit more than they have in past weeks for the Atlanta Falcons. I do think coming into this next game against Miami, everybody's going to feast, including Deshaun Robinson. But I do think Darnell Mooney will be getting targeted just a little bit more. Obviously, there are guys that we've talked about throughout the season, like Marvin Mims, finally playing a good game again. He's another one of those guys that just continues to go up and down. But in my opinion, he's a little bit more consistent at getting the ball past his way. So this past game against the Giants, he had 7 targets, 6 receptions, 85 yards, no touchdowns or anything. But this week, coming into week 8, he's going against Dallas, who is very, very porous there. And I do think Marvin Mims will continue to get some work. Same thing with Troy Franklin, Sutton. But I do believe Marvin Mims, with the type of player that he is, will be getting some pretty good pass catching. Frizzos is currently starting Bill. Ooh, nice. Says, but should I consider starting Spears or Kyle Monange over him? I don't think so. I don't have Ja'Cory Smith or Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I don't know why I said Smith. I think I was thinking of Rashad. But yeah, he hasn't been playing well. So obviously it just depends on how they're playing as a team. But it is a committee running back there. Same thing for Spears and Kyle Monange. But in my opinion, I think Monange could be the only guy that I would feel comfortable with you playing over Ja'Cory, just because he's going against Baltimore. I do think that they'll continue to use him in the passing game, but it's risky. Out of the 3 there, I like Monange better than both Bill and Spears, but Bill gets the most playing time. That is where you run into the predicament there of do you want a guy that's probably going to be getting the ball more because he has more playing time and seeing what he can do with his carries, because he's getting about 14 to 17 carries per game, and he could break some loose here against Kansas City. But I also think, hey, Kansas City is really good. It's going to be tough. So that's why I would probably want you to go Monange against Baltimore's defense, who's pretty banged up. Again, though, it's up to you. I think all 3 of those guys are going to get pretty similar points, but it just depends on who you think is going to do better with their touches. And I think Monange is the guy as of right now. But obviously, guys, we already talked about Xavier Legette. I do think he's a good player. I just don't think he's going to keep it consistent. But a guy that I already talked about is Troy Franklin. Again, we know that Denver's going against the Dallas Cowboys. Usually against very porous offenses, Troy Franklin gets the work. He had 10 targets this past game, only got 3 receptions for 19 yards, but had a touchdown. So obviously they are targeting him in plethora, against these teams that are porous. The teams that he did good against this past year so far is Tennessee, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, the New York Giants. So those are the teams that he's put against that he gets targeted a whole bunch. He's the number 36 wide receiver at this point in time. It's a little bit up and down more than I like it, but he is pretty consistent. So if you need anybody this week and you feel like somebody's going to get good points, it's probably going to be Troy Franklin. Other than that, I really don't have too many other guys except for somebody named Sterling Shepard. I talked about him a few weeks ago when it was more than a few weeks ago. It's probably like four or 5 weeks ago. But Sterling Shepard, when Mike Evans got hurt, should have been getting a lot more touches. I think right now, with, again, Mike Evans out, it's going to be in this order: Egbuka, Cade Otton, Sterling Shepard. That's the passing ranking order, in my opinion. The only one that I could see taking that away from him is Chris Godwin if he's healthy. But it says that 11 hours ago, Chris Godwin may not play this week. So if anything, Sterling Shepard moves up. So does a couple other guys like Tez Johnson. But I think Sterling Shepard is just a more reliable guy. This past week, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 25 yards. Horrible. But Detroit's defense was just playing phenomenally. I do not think New Orleans will do that to them. So Sterling Shepard could feast this week if you have a lot of bye weeks, especially for the wide receiver area. It says, between Spears and Brashad Smith, which one would you stash? Probably Spears. Brashad Smith is, I don't know. It's a committee back there. Kareem Hunt, Pacheco, Brashad Smith. All those guys are going to get similar playing times and be flipping and flopping. I'd rather go with Spears where it's just Pollard and Spears. And Spears is already at that 50-50 level with Pollard. So I like Spears in my opinion. He's not more versatile, but he's used more in an offense that probably needs him more. Versus Brashad Smith, Kansas City does not need him. Alrighty, boys and girls. My favorite tight ends, and then we'll go to defenses, and then we will cut this video pretty short today, as you know, getting a little tired here. But obviously, we've already talked about Gadsden from the Chargers, the tight end there, playing really well this season. Obviously, rookies at the tight end position are just playing phenomenally, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. But this past week, 29 points. Every catch he got was about an 18-yard average. So you tell me, is that good or is that not good? That was better than JSN this past game. He had 7 receptions for 164 yards and a touchdown. Better than JSN. Obviously, they lost this game. I do believe against Minnesota it's going to be a good game, but I do think they'll win. But the past 2 weeks, 7 receptions each game. Obviously, 68 yards in week 7, but 164 this past week. I do think he is a guy that is on the waiver wire priority at number 1, especially for those flex spots. If you already have a good tight end and you trust them, continue to play them, but also put Gadsden in. I think he's a great guy to have. Same thing. One guy that might be available for you in a lot, and I mean a lot of leagues, is continuing to be Jawan Johnson, the tight end there. This past week, he had another resurgence back to what he's usually used to receiving. 5 receptions, 79 yards, a 15.8 average per catch. He's going against Tampa Bay, who, again, we've said is banged up on both sides of the ball. I think he could be getting a really good usage this week. He's only on 35% of rosters, so he might be available for you, especially if you have a lot of wide receivers who are on bye or just need a tight end to be filling in. Last but not least, the one guy that I think should be also stashed as much as Gadsden is Cade Otton. The past 3 weeks, 12 points, 10 points, 13 points. 4 receptions in Week 5 against Seattle, 5 receptions against San Francisco, and 7 against Detroit. Coming into New Orleans, like I said, the dynamic is going to be Egbuka, Otton, Shepard. That's the order there for the passing game for the wide receivers / tight ends. So I think Cade Otton will continue to get the work. He's a big-bodied guy, but he's quick on his feet. And whenever something hits his hands, it's usually a catch. He doesn't have too many drops. So, in my opinion, I think it's going to be great. I think he'll get some red zone targets this next upcoming week against New Orleans. So make sure if Cade Otton is there, Gadsden is not a guy that you think you'll get because of your waiver wire order and you don't trust Jawan Johnson, go ahead and get Cade Otton. He's very, very consistent. I have him on a waiver wire claim in the league. So let's get to defense, boys and girls, obviously. Indianapolis Colts, the number 1 defense. It's in my thumbnail. I believe going against Tennessee, they are the team to have. Other than that, it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals defense. Obviously, they don't get a lot of points, but they are going against the Jets. And the Jets right now are looking very, very sorry. They don't know who's going to be their starter at this point in time. Obviously, they benched Fields. But we just don't know what's going to happen there for the Jets. They seem a whole lot dysfunctional, and I think Cincinnati could take care of that. Even with a very porous defense, I do think that they'll get some turnovers here and there. Same thing, guys. Atlanta Falcons going against the Miami offense. Again, Atlanta Falcons do have a fairly good defense, and they've scored a few points here and there against really bad teams. But going against Miami, they are another team that does not know what the heck they're doing at this point in time. So those are the 3 defenses I think you should pick up just based off matchup. Obviously, if you have something better, somebody drop like the Seahawks defense or something like that, even though they're on a bye week, I do think you should pick up the best defense that you think you're going to have for the rest of the season. That's what I have with the Seahawks as well as the Jaguars in one league. And I also believe that I believe it's the Indianapolis Colts or the Los Angeles Rams in another league that I'm keeping for a while. So if you can find a team that somebody dropped because of bye weeks or something like that, definitely pick them up and stash them because they will be good for you for the rest of the season. And you won't have to be flip-flopping defenses every week because of matchups and stuff like that. Let's see. Brazil has another comment here. He says, how about Devin Neal since Kendre Miller is out the rest of the season? I mean, I can see it, but in my opinion, if Devin Neal is the guy that you kind of have to rely on, I don't like it. I think Kamara is going to get a lot of the carries now going forward. Kendre Miller was dipping into that, but that's because Kendre Miller has been there for a little bit already, and he's earned his spot there. Devin Neal is a rookie. He's unproven. If you're in a dynasty league, I don't mind this pickup, but if you're in a 10, 12-man league that's just a redraft, I don't like this because Devin Neal is probably not going to be a guy to dip into Kamara's percentage of snaps as well as his touches. So, in my opinion, no, I'm not down with it. So yeah, that's just what I think there. But again, guys, let me know if you have any other questions. If not, you can always join the Discord down below and make sure you put your comments, your questions, any trade talks, stuff like that. Tyrone Tracy is a really good one. Obviously, Scat has taken his throne there for Zill. So let me pull up his stuff here. I dropped him in a redraft league. He's owned 37% of rosters. He's not owned in mine. But he had a resurgence here because of a touchdown. But he's only getting about 36% of snaps, which is good. He's getting opportunities, but they're very sparse. It's pretty consistent with what he was getting before as of opportunities, except now they're using Scat in the passing game. And Tyrone Tracy used to get all his points from the passing game. Now he doesn't have the passing game in these past 2 games against Philly and Denver. They're going against Philly again. I don't think Tyrone Tracy will be used in the passing game this week. I think the touchdown was just a, Scat is tired. Let's get Tyrone in there. So in my opinion, Tyrone Tracy is possibly better than Brashard Smith, but you can't rely on it, in my opinion, for him to be like somebody that starts for you. But he is a good guy to have in case Scat goes down. But when Scat wasn't really playing that much, Tyrone Tracy was not very good as the running back. So we'll take that with a grain of salt. With that, I think Brashard Smith and Tyrone Tracy are pretty even as of, opportunities with touches. So if you can get anybody else besides those guys, I would go like Spears, I would go Monange, and I would stay with Bill because they have better opportunity because they're getting more touches every single game, like solidified touches. Like that won't change going from game to game. Brazil says, just saw that Kyle Pitts is on my waivers. Should I drop Mason Taylor for Pitts? Yes. He has been looking really, really good. So this is the year that he is finally showing what he can do. He is the number 14th tight end right now. And obviously his floor is about, 5 points, and his ceiling is about, 15 to 20. So I do like it. I do like the rest of his schedule as well this year. It does look tough as of who he's playing, but he's getting a lot of targets, guys. Obviously, they like him for a reason. They kept him this long and dealt with everything with his drops issues, him getting open. But now that Michael Penix is the quarterback there, it looks like him and Kyle Pitts are pretty good. So I like that pickup. But all right, guys, go ahead and get your last minute questions in there. Other than that, make sure you join the Discord. You can leave comments and all that for your trades, your waiver wire pickups, everything like that. Make sure you watch AJ's video. He released it today, sometime around lunchtime, on his waiver wire pickups and who he thinks you should pick up as well, if they're available for you. But also put some questions down in the Discord, and we'll answer them as quickly as possible with your specific scenario. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching. We really enjoy your presence, and make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, send this to a friend if you feel like they could benefit from some fantasy football advice, or just talking about football in general. Thank you, guys, and as we always say, keep on grinding.